Hey everybody, thanks for watching.
What do we want?
This is your intrepid live streamer here.
No. Ready? What do we want?
Right. What do we want? News.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want?
You should stop all that place like that.
What do we want?
I live at the Seneca, 17. You got my phone number, just give me a call.
And then we're going to be marching.
Alright, see you later, sweetie.
It's a beautiful day. Find out from different people, different perspectives. That's why we don't need any drums.
Okay, honey. Alright, we're out here. That's the corner of Powell and Market. The most walked by intersection here, west of the Mississippi. Over 200,000 people a day go by this street. And we're glad to be live streaming. I'm going to move up forward a little bit here. How you doing, my brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, fuck him, dude. He's no longer my friend anymore.
Why? Why the
He just tries to tell everybody what to do, you know. I don't live that way, right? I'm an anarchist, you know. We don't tell people what to do.
Hi, you all.
All right, we're getting closer to the speakers
people
here.
out here
I'll see if I can get a good shot.
the drones.
Pardon me.
I mean, there's a number of things that we have to think about and talk about.
There we go, folks.
Washington tells us that the drones are a perfect tool. They get rid of terrorists. One of the things that have come out in recent months is that the majority of drone strikes are not even on known targets. Known targets are the targets where Washington decides that they're terrorists. Most of their attacks are what they call signature strikes. Signature strikes are ones where they target people who look like terrorists. It could be a number of men aged 20 to 40, and it could be, for example, in the mountainous region of northwest Pakistan, in the bordering area with Afghanistan. A signature strike is launched on people who look like terrorists. It could be men who are armed in a region where most men are armed. It could be people who look like terrorists, people who deserve to die. In drone strikes, a lot of children die. If we accept Washington's right, as Obama and others have tried to, the Attorney General, the State Department, the CIA, keep asserting their right to strike anyone they wish. They have a kill list. They decide that people on the kill list have to go, and then they strike with the drones. And what happens when they hit the wrong people? Oh well, it's collateral damage. And a high number of people, of the 5,000 people that have been killed, only a small percentage have been people that Washington has deemed to be deserving of being assassinated. Everyone else are just casualties. And what due process do these people have? Zero, right? There's no evidence, there's no trial, nothing. They just decide that they deserve to die. And what interest is Washington pursuing? We have to keep in mind, it's not just crazy generals, it's not just CIA people who like to kill people. They're in the service of the corporations, of the oil giants, of the banks. They're trying to keep the world safe for the interest of corporations. That's what they're doing. And we have to keep in mind, that's a part of the bigger deal. What Washington is trying to do, has been trying to do, is keep the Middle East, now increasingly Africa and Asia, safe for the interest of the corporations. That's what they're trying to do. It is part of that. And we have to keep in mind, Washington and the Pentagon and the CIA don't have good days. There are not times when they are pursuing democracy. When they attack and bomb Libya, they're not pursuing democracy. They're trying to install a client state. When they install Patriot missiles in Turkey bordering Syria, when they provide, quote, non-lethal assistance to the rebels, when they help Saudi Arabia and Qatar arm the rebels in Syria, they're not pursuing democracy. They're pursuing global empire again. And what about North Korea? What about the DPRK? They keep telling us that the North Koreans are crazy. Every time they target someone, the targeted country and their leaders are crazy.
Bullshit.
But they have operations, they have war games. Just about a month ago, they went through their war games dropping bombs, dropping drill bombs, practice bombs in areas close to North Korea. And these bombers are capable of dropping nuclear bombs. And then when the North Koreans respond with worry about being attacked, then they're labeled as, being provocative. Can we imagine what the U.S. would do if North Korea or anyone it deems as its enemies carried out war games in areas close to the U.S.? If they drop bombs in drills trying to determine how an actual bombing would go? So we have to continue this struggle. We have to continue the struggle against the drones. We have to continue the struggle against the assassinations. And we have to continue the struggle against the dangers of war, against various countries that the U.S. is targeting. And we have to keep in mind, there is no progressive role to be played by the Pentagon, by the CIA, by the White House. Everywhere that they are, what they're trying to do is kill people, is trying to kill the independence movements, is trying to keep the world safe for Washington and the corporations that they're working with. So let's keep up the struggle.
Thank you, Master. The drones are not going to be something that benefits you. They're not going to be benefiting anybody around us. They're only benefiting Wall Street and the government and everybody who makes profits. All of this money used to make drones is money taken out of everything that benefits us. Schools, healthcare, jobs, Social Security, you name it. All of that is money coming out of that and into more wars, more intervention in other countries, and more bombs and more people dying. Wall Street's wars, we say no, drones, killings got to go. Wall Street's wars, we say no, drones, killings got to go. Wall Street wars, we say no, drones, killings got to go. Wall Street wars, we say no, drones, killings got to go. Wall Street wars, we say no, drones, killings got to go.
Yeah, sorry for the volume, folks. It's really cranked up here.
Want to introduce our next speaker, Sarah Carlson, who's an organizer with Women Organized to Resist and Defend. Please welcome Sarah.
Hi, I'm an organizer with Women Organized to Resist and Defend. It's a new grassroots feminist organization dedicated to building the struggle for equality for women and really for all people. As was stated before, over 5,000 people have been killed by drone strikes in the last few years, including untold numbers of women and children. The claims of the U.S. government that drone strikes are precisely targeted and result in no civilian death have been proven completely false. A recent joint study by New York University and Stanford University concluded that only 2% of those murdered by drones in Pakistan were high-profile targets. Some international organizations have even recorded and publicized the names of children that have been killed by U.S. drone strikes in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Yemen. Some were merely infants when their lives were abruptly ended by the push of a button, the action of a soldier who is thousands of miles away. The U.S. government refuses to disclose exactly who is on their drone strike kill list and how that list is determined. This has allowed the government and the military to play judge, jury, and executioner for thousands of people all over the world, many of whom are guilty only of living in a region that has been targeted by U.S. imperialism. When trying to sell the American public on an unpopular war, the U.S. government often promotes the idea that they are intervening to protect women's rights. This is a major justification used in the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. Politicians declared that we were on a mission to liberate the women of the Middle East and Central Asia, and that the U.S. military is spreading democracy for women. So far, all the United States has spread is destabilization, terror, and death for the majority of women in targeted countries. The mass numbers of civilian deaths that accompany every drone strike further proves how false this justification has been. Is the U.S. government really trying to liberate women by indiscriminately bombing them, their children, and their community? The very same U.S. politicians who attack our right to control our own bodies, the same politicians who slash social service programs that feed our families and refuse to intervene when we're being discriminated against in the workplace, these are the very same politicians that suddenly care about women's rights abroad. The truth is, they don't care about women's rights or women's lives, they care about profit. They launch wars for control of natural resources, and the military-industrial complex generates billions of dollars in profits for those at the very top. The government is planning on spending $885 million in the fiscal year of 2013 on the purchase of 24 Reaper drones alone. Where is that money coming from? It's coming from our taxes. And it's money that would otherwise go to child care programs, healthcare, housing, schools, what women and the rest of us actually need. As Dr. King once said in 1967, the bombs in Vietnam explode at home. They destroy the hopes and possibilities for a decent America. We cannot allow our tax dollars to continue funding high-tech death for our sisters and brothers around the world. We want to live in peace with the people of the world. We want to end targeted assassinations that actually kill hundreds of innocent civilians. We want the money that's being pumped into the drone warfare to be used instead on the things that we actually need. Things like funding our public schools and providing universal health care services for all. That is why we'll be mobilizing for women all over the U.S. to march with us today, April 13th, in coordination with the call put out by the Answer Coalition. Because women all over the U.S. say no to drones. I have a sign-up sheet here for anyone who is interested in learning more about WORD, and I have some literature as well. Thank you guys so much for coming out today.
Anyway, we're down here at the corner of Powell and Market. Come down if you're in San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, brothers and sisters, I hope you're excited to be here. Not only do we have a beautiful day, but the thing is that we don't have access to the corporate media. We don't have the front cover of the New York Times. We don't have an opinion piece in the Washington Post. This is our avenue to talk to our people, to the working people in this country that are making line here, that are going shopping. All of us want to live in peace. All of us want to enjoy our Saturday evening. But the reality is that those in power don't allow not only the people abroad, but us here at home as well. With budget cuts that are affecting so many people. All of us have a relative who lost a job. All of us have somebody who had a school closed down. All of us know a teacher that's losing their job. And that's why we're here to speak to the public. Because we don't have access to that media, brothers and sisters, and that's how they silence us. And so we're out here, again, talk to people. When you see them around and stopping and wondering what's going on, people want to know about this because they never hear. They never hear of the 5,000 innocent lives that have been killed. They declare everyone's a terrorist. Well, did you know only 2% of those killed by the drone strikes are actually, quote, high alert individuals that they needed to kill. That's it. The rest of the 4,000 and odd are civilians. Women, children, men like you and I, families who also want to just live in peace. And so that's why we can't be afraid. That's why we have to be out here and talk to our neighbors, talk to the people. So brothers and sisters, I want to say, I'm just going to go quick shit. We got a few more speakers. Says, they say drone war, we say no more. They say drone war,
We say no more.
they say drone war,
We say no more.
they say drone war,
We say no more.
they say drone war.
We say no more.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. Our next speaker from the West Toxics Coalition is Dr. Henry Clark, speaking to us today.
Yay, doctor.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It's a great honor to be here today with all of you and the thousands in D.C. to say drones out of Africa, out of Asia, out of the Middle East, out of anywhere. First of all, let's get it clear, as one of the speakers said, these drone bases in Niger, Africa is all about trying to stop the Muslim insurgency in Nigeria and the resistant forces in other neo-colonial countries there to protect the oil interests that U.S. companies have been stealing, the diamonds, the gold, the coltan that is used to put in our phones and computers. That's what it's all about, corporate profit, period. Yet the United States cry crocodile tears when there's some attack here in the United States, but they don't care nothing about people in Africa and other countries. These drone attacks, this robotic technology, they even have plans to go further than drones. They have what they call nanotechnology, where, say, you could use, technology to produce little small nano ants. Ants roam around the place. You can't even see them. Well, they got technology where they can produce ants that go and spy or use them for military purposes, or in areas where they're fighting in mountainous regions. They have technology to make deers out of this technology that can scale these mountains and be used for military purposes. So it's no end to the evil minds that this U.S. imperialist system and their greedy corporations is going to produce weapons of war to kill people. That make no difference, for profit and for gain. And we have to say no to this, period, until U.S. imperialism is swept into the dustbin of history, period. These are war crimes. These are crimes against humanity. Going around the world and stealing people resources and all, and then when they bring it to the Chevron refinery there in Richmond, where I'm at, to continue to poison us on that level. Well, we're going to be fighting on all levels, whether it's in Richmond, in Africa, wherever people are under attack by U.S. imperialism. We stand in unity and in solidarity to them to say U.S. imperialism out, period. These are war crimes. They are crimes against humanity, and the Obama administration and previous administration should be tried in a people's tribunal for crimes against humanity.
You said it, brother.
It ain't going to happen in The Hague because the U.S. has control and influence over that. But we try them in the streets like we're trying them today in D.C. We'll try them in the people court, and they will suffer the consequences because the people are going to be victorious in the final end. U.S. out of Africa, U.S. out of the Middle East, U.S. out of Asia, free all political prisoners and prisoners of war, U.S. out of Guantanamo Bay. All power to the people.
Thank you, Dr. Henry Clark. Our next speaker is from the Bay Area Latin America Solidarity Coalition. Please welcome Kathleen Densmore.
Okay, I'm not an experienced rally speaker, but I'll give it my best. I work with this coalition. One of our primary activities is to lend solidarity to people's movements in Latin America and the Caribbean. So to do this work, we have to know what U.S. foreign policy actually looks like in these different countries. And we found a number of really important things. One thing we found out is U.S. foreign policy in these countries looks an awful lot like U.S. foreign policy in Yemen, in Somalia, in Syria, in countries all over the globe. Another thing we found out is that U.S. foreign policy not only has been, but continues to be imperialist. We're told the opposite. We're told that U.S. foreign policy is mostly about helping countries become more democratic, providing humanitarian aid, helping countries become more sovereign. That's what we're told. That's what a lot of people believe. It's not true. The aim of U.S. foreign policy is to get control, maintain control over other countries, and see to it that the resources in those countries go to furthering the interests of the ruling elite in this country and the corporations that call the shots. Another thing we found out is that U.S. foreign policy today is really hard for people to see, and it's hard to find out where is the money coming from that fuels it. So, for example, we find out that journalists get paid by the U.S. government to write certain stories in newspapers to sway public opinion. We find out that citizens in other countries are paid monthly stipends, get laptops, cameras, cell phones, if they agree to create social disturbances where they live, leading itself to destabilizing those cities, those countries, making them more vulnerable to U.S. interference, U.S. involvement. Another thing we found is, just like foreign policy, war drives our foreign policy, but war today is carried out more in ways, again, that are hard for people to see. So while we still send in ground troops some of the time, more often than not, we rely on joint special operations, cyber warfare, and drones. And the problem with drones is not just that we're being lied to about them. We're told that they leave a light footprint and they're clean and they're cheap and all this stuff, and those are lies. But from our perspective, the main problem is that they're an act of war. So we're with you today, with all the people around the country that are demonstrating today, to say not just no to use a drone fare, but no to war. And we need a different kind of foreign policy that's possible. We need to get more organized, more militant, so that Washington and the Pentagon know we're serious. Thanks.
Yay! Thank you so much, Kathleen. So our next speaker is Stephanie Tang from the organization World Can't Wait. If you can see, they're the ones that brought that drone there, which at the same time is like an awe to see, at the same time is grotesque and shocking just to see it. It's a 1 to 6 scale, but that's the impact that these will have around the world. So again, welcome Stephanie Tang.
Good afternoon. Every single person here is precious because you're here today to stand up against these immoral, illegal, illegitimate crimes by our government. And every single one of us knows 100, 200, 300 other people. If you're into social media, you probably know more. People who do not yet understand what they need to understand. And so off of today, what we need to do is have plans that stretch farther and farther out and actually bring more and more people together. There are drone protests going on all this month, all over the country. This is the National No Drones Month, April, and that's really great. And there are many different kinds of political and religious and radical and unradical organizations of all kinds beginning to participate, but we need to grow. So that's my first point. I want to ask a question. I know that many of you have heard the philosophical point that you can tell a lot about the nature of a society by the kind of military it fields and how its soldiers behave out in the world. And I think the same is true for weapon systems themselves that the military uses. So think a minute. Nuclear weapons, World War II, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Napalm, Vietnam, children running down the road. Drones. What kind of a society is it that invents these things? These immoral, unspeakable ways of murdering people for imperial power. This is not the kind of world any of us should want to live in, and it's on us. Nobody on high in this government is ignorant of what the drones are doing. They know. Obama has sent more drone strikes than George Bush sent in his entire term. They know. And it isn't just the people who order it, and it isn't just the people who invented these things. It goes all the way down. People who are part of the chain of command have to figure out how to make the best use of these drones. I'm not going to repeat things other people said, but I didn't hear anybody mention one fact that came out of the Living Under Drones report, and that's the term double tapping. Double tapping is when you send a drone and it kills a bunch of people in a village, and then you wait until the first responders arrive to help the wounded and pick up the dead, and then you hit them with a bigger bomb. What kind of a society allows its government to order its military to carry out double tapping? So, I just got the tap. Single tap. Look, let's make it so that drones are like napalm were for my generation. When we looked at what napalm was and the government that was sending it, we said, not only this is not in my name, we said this is a government that does not deserve the stamp of legitimacy, and people got to do something to stop it. And whatever your politics are, that might mean different things to different people, but we cannot allow this to go on. We cannot allow the world to see this. And finally, last point. The longer this goes on, the more people in this country and their millions are being conditioned that this is normal. And so even the spying drones, for example, that are being sent right now as we speak over Iran, not bombing Iran, just spying, can be turned immediately into killer drones. And more wars, and more drones, and more death, and more hatred in the cycle of this world. And that's what people in this country are being conditioned to accept, tolerate, and even want. We are up against a mighty, mighty propaganda machinery. We have to stand up. We have to be in the streets. We have to tell people, stop waiting for your government to fix its own crimes, and step forward and become part of a movement that can do this with people all over the world. American lives are not more important than the lives of people in any other place on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie Tang. I felt bad. I didn't want to tap her again. All right, the next person, Omar Ali from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Welcome, Omar.
Thank you. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for coming out today to protest against the drone warfare in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Libya, Somalia. You know, everybody has touched on very critical things, and I would just like to add that there are 4 corporations that have been profiting numerous billions of dollars